things to do in the last 60 days as they prepare their group. Let's start there. Can we do that?
Sure, absolutely. So, a lot of you, depending on what your schedule is in your congregation, some of you might be coming up on maybe the last time you're going to meet with your participants for a while. Maybe got a busy June and things. You may have a time where you might be apart from each other for a while. So really want to, think of these next 60 days, these times to continue to be preparing spiritually for the gathering. One, to be in the Psalms. If you haven't utilized the Bible studies that are out the pre-gathering one, great resources on the website to be in the Word with your young people, to be preparing them for our time in the book of Psalms, and just what a beautiful piece of scripture that is for us as God's people, to be reminded of His grace in our life and who we are as His people. And just in general, just reading through the Psalms, to be really immersed with those, and to just be molded and shaped by God in that way, and to have that time to be encouraging the young people that are going with you, your adult leaders, and also parents in the whole church, to be focused on those words. As well, obviously, to get the prayer that God has given to us, to have conversations with Him, to be lifting up our concerns, also our praises and thanks to Him as well, for our young people, for the adults of giving of their time, for our pastors and DCEs and teachers and all those who are investing in our young people, to be lifting up words of prayer, and also that God would bless these next 60 days, as well as our 5 days of the gathering as well, that again, things would be blessed by Him, that Satan's ways would be thwarted, and that we will have enjoyable 5 days of service and learning and worship in Minneapolis. And so that even too, it's a great time to get your church involved, maybe do prayer partners with participants who are going to openly maybe break up hours during the 5 days of the gathering, or preparation time, to where people will pray during that specific time for your young people and for the adult leaders, that they would be keeping them and lifting them up in prayer. So just a lot of ways there spiritually. I'd also lift up one too. Finally warmed up here in St. Louis. Went out and bought new running shoes to get them broken in, and started getting steps in a little bit more. So even physically, you start thinking about all the walking and stuff and running, that type of things, trying to get geared up here in these next 60 days, so I'm ready for those great days at the gathering, and prepared physically for that too. So just some things I know I'm doing to get prepared in these coming days for sure.
Excellent. And, one of the things we talked about, like a lot of logistic things, and I don't know if you're like me, I was so blessed to always have some people in my congregation that loved some of that stuff. And so I would always bring them along to do some of the paperwork that I didn't really want to do. And so one of the things that we want to make sure that you think through in the last 60 days are, what are the paper things that I need to get done, and to make sure that they're lined up with, whether it's you or someone in your group. So make sure that you have all the forms that you need. We're thinking about registration, all that stuff is in line, and that you've got that stuff done. All your medical forms, think about that. Do I have a copy, not just a copy for me, but do I have a copy for each of our participants? Do I have a copy for some of the adult leaders? Just to have several of those ready and kind of think through some of those processes. So logistically, paperwork, is that in hand? Is that ready to go? Always a fun thing. And then a packing list, of which there's one on the website that we can resource here too, that you can go and start with, to start helping your kids, helping your youth say, what do you pack for this? For example, bug spray, mosquitoes are in Minnesota. And so that's something that you want to make sure to kind of think through. What are those things that we need? Sunscreen, snack bars. By the way, you can bring those individually wrapped into both convention center and into the stadium. That's allowed, but have that on the list. Kind of think through some of those things. Water bottles. I know we've gotten a lot of questions about water bottles, of what's allowed, what's not allowed. The stadium, US Bank Stadium, has asked us not to bring in metal water bottles, but they won't confiscate them. You just need to know that. But they have requested that we don't bring that, but bring water bottles, because it's easy to get dehydrated. And one of the great things about Minneapolis is there's water fountains everywhere. Right in the convention center, you can fill up and just make sure that kids are drinking water. That's something you want to tell them now. Also, think about what not to bring list. Sometimes we spend as much time about the what not to bring as we did the what we should bring list. So think about, how do I tell our youth some of the things that I don't want them on? I know that for a lot of people, that includes even conversations about phones and cell time and different things about music and how much you want them on the phone or not on the phone. Those are all good conversations to be having if you haven't already had them, to have them within the next 60 days. And we know that every group is different, every leader is different, and you deal with lots of different parents. So just kind of think through those things, have them down in writing so that people understand what some of those expectations are. We always put a group covenant together because it was important for them to know what they can expect from their adult leaders, and also what parents could expect from their adult leaders, and also what we can expect from them. And we always kind of did that together. Was one of the last things that we did before the trip. So those are some of the things. Mark, how about think about the schedule of the gathering? What's some of the things they should kind of be thinking about in regards to planning their actual schedule once they get there?
Right. So there's been some basic structural schedules on the website already to kind of give you, again, that breakdown of the day. We've walked through those on webinars as well, so you kind of have that general idea. Starting to give you more information to the primary adult leaders through webinars about the exact location of where you are in terms of your hotel, maybe some of those transportation schedules. So you have a lot of that information, and maybe you're still working through some of that on the webinars. The great thing too is that we'll have at the next couple of weeks opportunities to give you even more detail as you look at your programmatic day, especially at the convention center, as well as some of the food options and things Derek's going to talk about later. We were reminiscing in the office about, going back 10 plus years ago, that imagine you were going to register the day of the gathering, say on Thursday, July 11th, and you have not seen anything about a speaker schedule yet. And we give you this big, thick guidebook, but then you'd have to go back and have a couple of hours basically to have you pick their schedule up for the next 3 days, and having to do that in a short amount of time to make the most of those 3 full days of programming. What a blessing God's given to us in technology. That one, we have a website where we'll be able to post essentially like copies of the physical guidebook in a PDF format. So if you prefer to have kind of that version of it, you'll be able to flip through that and see some of the important schedule information on speakers and that type of stuff, bios and descriptions of the speakers themselves, as well, of course. We have our gathering app, and that's been such a blessing. This will be our 3rd year now with the app that will be getting released in early June, so that you'll have a chance to download that, and again, to be able to make your own schedule. Like, I can't wait to start picking out my sessions that I want to attend, places that I want to connect, so that I can really prioritize the speakers I want to see, the topics I want to see, and then also for you to schedule in times maybe for community time throughout your days as well, so young people are checking in or getting together with your adult leader, or activities you might have like district events and things. So what a blessing technology enables us to do that in terms of getting the guidebook out early, so you have those schedules, those detailed schedules, as well as the app. And then also in connection to the next webinar in June, we're going to kind of break out the information as well as kind of, again, some last minute kind of preparation stuff for you. So it's kind of guidebook type material, but it's really things you're going to want to know before you show up. And so that'll kind of give you a little bit of last minute things. And of course, it ties to that webinar we'll be having as well. But that will be a resource that'll be coming to really give you those last minute preparations as you come into Minneapolis.
I know Roy asked about volunteers and where do volunteers sign up? Great question, Roy. You're going to get that link directly from the volunteer team. So our local team, our local volunteer team will make sure that they get that right information. So you've got the right place, right room, right time. So expect to hear more from them specifically probably in the month of June coming up. Another thing we want to talk a little bit about is some scheduling options and choices that you have. And let me just preface this a little bit by saying this. In fact, I know Wendy and Kimberly, you said this was your first time. There were a few others that said this is your first time. I just want to make this clear. These are just options. They're not have-tos. One of the things that we try to do is to think about what are things that we can offer or put before our adult leaders that would make their job easier or can take maybe a stress off an evening or different things like that. We get some feedback from you guys and we try to figure out what can we do to help you out. And so these are all optional things. You don't have to do that. Sometimes we have some in the group that do it, some that don't do it, but just options. So the first one is on some scheduling and choices. We know that we've been hearing from several people that their plan is they're coming in early to the city. So we'll have quite a few that are going to be here on Wednesday already, the 10th. And that part of the plan is on the 11th to go to the Mall of America. We've heard that from several people already. And one of the things we just want to put out there to make sure that you're aware of this is we've heard from some people that the plan is to go to eat out at the Mall of America and then to come in on the blue line, the metro that they just buy a one-day pass and go on the metro. Our one concern about that is we have a lot of people already scheduled to come on the metro that night to come into town. So there's already a predetermined number that are coming in. And if we have a lot of groups that are planning to do that as well, it only has so much capacity. So just, if you're thinking, hey, we're going to go till 6:30, and then we're going to just get on the blue line and we're going to go in, we just want you to be aware that there might be a pretty large capacity of people that want to get on, and only so many can get on each train. And so to do that, usually about 600 or so that can get on a train. And so there's a chance that if there's enough people who are doing that, you may not get on the first train. So just want you to be aware as you make good plans along that line, or that you give yourself enough time to eat, to get on an earlier train and to get in to make sure you don't miss the first event. So that's one thing that we've heard. The other thing is we're opening up the State Fair food event today. And we're very excited about this. If you've been in Minnesota, to go to the State Fair is just kind of an epic thing. It's the second biggest state fair in America, and a lot of people go to the State Fair. They call it the Great Minnesota Get Together, and so we wanted to recreate at least an aspect of that, and plus give a food option. So what we're doing is on Thursday, the first 4 days of the gathering, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we are giving an option for those that want to buy a meal. And what you can do is you can go, this will open today, you can go and to buy one of 3 different meals that they're the same meals every night. So, but you can go on saying, hey, I want the corn dog meal, and there's 5 items that come with each of the 3 choices. And it's $18, includes the 5 items. It's a pre-event ticketed thing. So you'll pay for it with a credit card. They will be in your packet at registration. So you'll have they'll be at registration. There's a booth you'll go to pick up your tickets. And it's really an option to say, hey, one of those, if it's one night's taken care of, we're going to go down there. We're going to hang out in the park. It's going to be beautiful. And we're just going to kind of enjoy that. It's kind of, we planned it to be a pretty quick turnaround event. So it's not a lot of waiting in line. We know that the fact that there's a bunch of people that will be down doing that will also mean that there's other restaurants that are freer of lines and things like that. So it kind of helps everybody out along the line. You could do it all 4 nights. You could do it one night. You don't have to do it all. It's just an option. What we are saying is it is a first come, first serve option. So when it's full, it's full. And then we'll close down the night, whatever night is full, and then the remaining ones will be open. So it's another option. Downtowns just aren't meant to handle 23,000 meals, and especially at price points that are youth price points. So we've created an option to give some different things to look at. So that's one thing. The other thing on this kind of the same area is the food truck event. And so we're bringing in about 20 food trucks or so. We're still, there's more food trucks. There's a lot of food trucks down in Minneapolis. So we're working with them to bring in down lots of variation, and they'll be on one side of the park, and the State Fair will be on the other side of the park, but they're all in that same area. So for example, we know that some said in the State Fair, there's some food allergies you have in your group that the State Fair doesn't address, but there's a bunch of food trucks that do have options for that. And since it's all in the same area, you have options for those that have food allergies. So anyway, we're going to publish that on the app later. So there'll be a whole list of food trucks, and you and your youth can go in and see the different menus there too. We've talked with them about quick turnaround. I know some people said food trucks are notorious for long lines. And we're helping them to simplify their menu a little bit so they have really quick turnaround so people can get through the line in a hurry. So just know that we're talking through that. And then the other thing is there'll be stadium concessions. And stadium concessions, we want you to know that price points are stadium price points. So they're a little high, but it's an option if you just want to go down, spend some extra time at the convention center, and then come into the stadium, and your youth can purchase a meal down there. So that's another option. And then want to let you know that we're going to do a 5K, and we're going to do it a little different this time from the fact normally it's done really early, but partly because of Minnesota and the weather and the way the logistics happen within the city, we're doing it's a Sunday late afternoon race. So it's a 4 o'clock. People line up at 3:30 or so right in front of the convention center, and then it will be a path through the city. The city's been very gracious. In fact, they've said we are approving a route that we've not approved to anybody else. They like us, so we are so thankful for that. And it's a 5K through the city. It's $30, and part of the best part of it is it's a support for Feed My Starving Children. We're going to pack over 1 million meals, and so it will help support that initiative of those 1 million meals. And in fact, if you don't care about your time, you're just going to go, you're going to walk it, or you really don't care, you can put on the form, check in the form, no need for timer, and then even more money will go into Feed My Starving Children. So that's going to be open today. It will go through June. In fact, I'm trying to think what the deadline is. June 22nd is the deadline on that. And so you've got from here to then to register for anyone in your group that wants to do that run walk. It's always a great and fun event. Okay, so Mark, there's also just, if you could talk us through, there are those who have options of doing things like offsite and onsite serve events. Can you tell us a little bit about, we've been getting questions about when will I hear and those kind of things?
Absolutely. So when you registered, you were asked to rank program options that we had available of offsite serving events, onsite serving events, and then Feed My Starving Children food pack. We'll be getting information out about that. We're hoping within the next 2 weeks here. So the primary adult leader will get an email if you're selected. So a couple things about that. We wish we could say that everyone's getting their #1 option, but that's not the case. It just mathematically doesn't work out that way for the spots that we have available in those areas. So some of you will be getting a #1 spot. Some of you might be getting your second spot. Some may not be selected to get any of the pre-sign-up opportunities. So know that if you don't get an email that you've been selected, is that there are still plenty of opportunities to serve at the convention center. Some of it will be these pre-slotted things like our service immersion, Feed My Starving Children, especially, that will have spots that will open up because some people may not take their opportunity or other things may become available. So there will be communicating about that if there's a way to sign up for that. But then also at the convention center, there are just a lot of opportunities to serve that are not necessarily tied to being pre-scheduled for those. So again, primary adult leader will get an email. We're really hoping for that to be around again mid-May. And we'll be sending out the primary adult leader that'll give you your sign-up options. And then in this case of the offsite serving events, it'll probably just be simply saying that you've been selected because we are still placing people into those sites. So you'll get more information later. They'll actually give you where you're going and more along those lines. So the first communication will just be simply that you're slotted. For the on-site service area, you'll be given a link to basically go in and register your group. We'll give you priority based on like the time of day, the day you want to do it, then also the type of service you want to do, of the options that are at the convention center for on-site service. And then Feed My Starving Children actually manages the schedule for our food pack. And so you'll be able to go in and select your time for your group to go and serve through Feed My Starving Children. So really excited about those options, great ways that we are supporting organizations like Feed My Starving Children, great service learning opportunities, and what an opportunity we get to be a witness out into the Twin Cities as we serve in Jesus' name all across the city, being able to do great work, again, for our neighbors that are there, and again, to give people the idea of why we serve. We serve because we know a real present God and his love for us. We're able to show that to others. So really excited about all that those teams have put together. There's another webinar about that I know from a few months back that you can learn to get more details, but that kind of gives you an idea of when you'll be notified and how that process will happen.
Excellent. And Mark, I was so busy talking, I didn't look at the questions. So we're going to go back to a few of these. I love these questions. So we want to make sure that we answer what you've got. And I know Meredith posted this as well, but someone asked about the state fair time. It's from 5 o'clock to 7:30 every day. So food trucks will be ready to serve at 5 o'clock. They'll start actually lining up earlier than that. But ready to go. Same thing with the state fair event. And then someone asked about where it's at. So I apologize, I didn't clarify that very well. The state fair event and the food truck is at it's a park called the Commons Park, which is literally right outside US Bank Stadium. So it is probably about 50 to 70 yards away from US Bank. And so you can have your event. There's also going to be some a stage and some entertainment that's going to be different people playing as well that will be there. So you can just kind of come and hang out and have a little picnic, and then head to the stadium and get queued into the stadium for whatever time you're going in at that point. So 5 to 7:30 at the Commons Park right outside. And then someone asked about a couple questions about the 5K. It is $30 for the registration, which includes your bib, your timing, and a shirt, a running shirt, which always a favorite. And then there was, Brian asked, great question about the 5K. Do you have to sign up as a full group, or can you do individuals? And you can do both. So you could, if as a leader, you can go in and sign up your whole group if you want to do that, or you can direct an individual to sign up and to pay if that works for you. They just need to make sure that they've got your church, they have the right information to sign up as well, because we will give you, we don't do, with registration, we give the whole church a packet to make it as easy as possible. And so we want to make sure that we have everyone together. Okay. Excellent. Let's see, was there any, the app is, I know we said that they're coming out a little later in the beginning of June. That was the other question about pre-registration. So there will, for the state fair event, it will all be pre-registered. Partly is to know how much food that's got to be prepared. So you cannot buy tickets for that event on site. It will be, we'll keep it open until it's either closed, where we've had the max number that's done it, or until we get right before the gathering, we got to close it down in the beginning of July. But it is a pre-sold event, so you have to buy your tickets ahead of time. Are the convention center and US Bank stadiums walking distance from each other? Mark, do you want to address that one?
Sure. So they're about a mile apart, a real kind of easy walk in downtown Minneapolis. Minneapolis is a great walkable city, large sidewalks, great routes. We'll have a route for you, especially if you're heading directly to the state fair option or the food trucks. That we work with the city, so there'll be additional, just our volunteers and others directing that path. So it's all walkable, but basically it's about a mile if you want to kind of think about that between the two facilities. So that's, again, a great downtown area just to be able to enjoy. If you're eating downtown, maybe a route might take you off to where you're talking at most a mile and a half to go between the facilities. If you're going off route a little bit, really a very walkable downtown area, which is wonderful.
Excellent. And some other questions here. Someone, Trina asked, okay, I thought they said safe food is on the app, so where do we find it to order? It's actually you're gonna get a link, and so we're gonna send it out. It'll be on the adult leader page as well. That will have all the links that you can just click in, and will bring you right into to our program where you can order the different things that you have. So you're going to get that. It won't be on the app. That actually is going to be on the Adult Leader Facebook page, and there's some different ways that we'll get that link to you as well. And then Robert asked about early entrance to the US Bank Stadium. We actually in June are going to talk more about the entrance to the stadium, because there are several different aspects to that. And so I'm not going to spend as much time here. For the majority of the groups, they can plan on about a 6:45 entrance to if you want to be a part of the floor, and give you a little bit of a heads up. The floor access this year is going to be, we have about 5,000 seats or so, and it will be a kind of a first come, first serve. And once we hit the 5,000, kind of a holding tank, so to say, we'll cut that off. And then the rest will come in a little after 7 o'clock. So 6:45, 7 o'clock, kind of think about that as far as scheduling wise of stadium entrance, but we'll cover that more in June's kind of last second webinar. Much more detailed plan that's almost finalized. A price point for food trucks is a great question, Wendy. Typically what we're really aiming for, it is typical food truck kind of thing. So it's roughly probably $10 to $15 depending on what people are getting. So you think about an $8 to $9 entree, and then if depending on your sides and your pops and sodas or whatever you're going to get with that. So typically you would say it's somewhere probably between $10 and $18, $10 to $20 depending on what people and how much they want to eat. All right. Let's see if we have a Mark. If you see one, jump into.
I saw a question from Sarah about shuttle for any sort of wheelchair bound or special needs youth to gathering locations. Yes, one thing I do want to clarify: if you signed up for special needs at registration, hopefully by now you've been contacted by our advisor. If that's not the case, if you're not at the Hyatt, please do contact our office. We do have a shuttle that'll be our special needs shuttle from essentially the Hyatt Hotel to the US Bank Stadium. Hyatt's right next to the convention center, so we won't need transportation there for your daytime activities. But for the evening activities, yes, we will have a shuttle that will take you to the stadium and back with a special entrance into the stadium for those of you that are signed up. Again, if you have not been contacted or you're not at the Hyatt, probably suggest that you contact our office to maybe walk through that a little bit.
Excellent. And I know Lori asked about umbrellas in the stadium. We checked with the stadium. They have no problem with umbrellas coming in. They will do bag checks, just so that you're aware of that. Any stadium today is doing that. But you can bring those in. We actually asked, we know some people do like the big poles, so group identification. They said there's not an issue with that either. So they've been great to work with, but rain poncho's a great idea as well. Some other people asked about district events. In district events, there are some district, we know several are down at Concordia doing a district event, so there's other districts that are doing events in the stadium. You'll hear more information from your district coordinators on that. There is several of them have a club access that they will be in, and so a lot of the district events will start happening at 5 o'clock, and so there will be you'll hear more information about which gate you go in to get to your district event. And then there is reserve seating. It's not floor seating, but it's premium seating that you'll hear more about as well for those that are signed up for that. Rebecca asked about floor seating. Will we rotate this year? It just doesn't work. We tried it a couple different ways to try to figure that out. And with the US Bank Stadium, it just doesn't work this year. So it's, if there's a night you really want to get on the floor, you just got to come probably a little earlier and make sure you're part of that first 5,000. Great question. It will have a controlled access like it did last year. Safety is really important to us. So we've worked with the stadium, and there's a guided path that they're going to use to get down there. So that's why the floor is going to be let in actually earlier than everybody else by about a half an hour. Okay. Stadium concessions, we don't have any more information about that. We'll release more of that, but there's a lot of variety. That's one of the great things about stadiums today, is a lot of different food in that, and there'll be more stuff that we can say that on that in June. All right, Mark, any that you saw that I missed?
So a question about weekly or special passes for Metro. Again, we're working with those who are staying at the Metro properties. So Mall of America, St. Paul University properties, that there will be a pass tied to those areas, as that's their main transportation in and out of Minneapolis. But for everyone else, there is not a special pass. What the city recommends, they just generally don't do those, is again, maybe look at a day pass in terms of that, or just again, your individual needs that you have for rides. Very economical, usually $2 to $2.50 for a 2-hour window, or it could be one ride depending on what you're doing. I would highly recommend, if you're going to use that, download the app. They have a great app. You can put in your payment information and just keep using that. I was in the city a week ago and utilized that. It was so easy. Just easy to update, get new tickets, that type of thing. So I highly recommend you download the Metro app if you're going to utilize that for whether you're using the bus or the light rail. It's a great tool. But again, you don't necessarily be looking for special deals, because they just generally don't do that, week-long passes or whatever. So just look for those normal ones. Great question.
And Stephanie had a great question too about what about kids? We know we have a lot of youth that have different struggles, and whether it's anxiety or some mental health concerns along that line. And just so that you know, we definitely have, there's a team that we have that's on site. Actually, we have probably 3 different teams that are resources for you to use. And so you can work with the yellow shirts, our CLBs, and any gathering planner as well can help connect if there's a moment where you just need some extra assistance or help, or if there's a crisis. We also have a team that works with different crises and groups as well. So yes, there will be that. Also working with things like, so you know, with the stadium and the convention center, where if noise and if people get really anxious, we have places that are set aside that are quiet spaces that are where lighting is down and things like that. So if you could work with us, we can direct you to the right things to make sure that you have what you need. And Scott asked about different maps and where food trucks and places are. The best stuff that we will have, we'll release on the app. And so just know when that app is going, you'll see where they're at. All the food trucks that we know of, we're inviting into the commons area. We know that there might be some throughout the city as well. Minneapolis has a lot. You can Google some of that, and they're available. I'm assuming several of them will start to gravitate towards the convention center because they do know our event is in town. So that might be an option as well. Hey, Mark, let's do this. Let's jump to kind of that second point, because we know that the congregations invest a lot of time and energy into to making sure that their youth group can go. And some it's all about maybe fundraisers have been a part of it, prayer support, and all those kind of things. And so thinking about these last 60 days, we've had lots of different groups have done different things to kind of include their congregation into being a part of the gathering. Can you take them through maybe some of the things that they can do, or some things they can think about as a way to help share this experience with their congregation?
Absolutely. Just kind of put together a few. One is be thinking about maybe doing some sort of sending or commissioning service before you come to the gathering. That might be the weekend right before, or it might be, if it works in better in your schedule, to do it at some point where you just take some time to have special prayer for your young people, as well as for the participants to thank the congregation for all the support they've given to them, and have some mutual time in prayer over the experience that'll be going on in the gathering. But bigger than that, beyond that, just that community that is built is, I know that's one thing I took away from my gathering experience as a youth, that how amazing it was that my home congregation would invest all that time and energy into me to go to this event, to learn about the church, learn about my faith in Christ, and what it means to be a part of the body of Christ. So just a great time for interaction. We'll have a resource for that, kind of some prayers and things you can consider, but many of you have probably done your own thing and write your own, but we'll have kind of some pieces for that too, for some different prayers and stuff that you can have during a worship service. One thing that I lift up too, that if you haven't already done already, to make sure you get it on the calendar so your adults and youth are prepared for this, but it's to also come back and do some sort of recap event as well, and a thank you to your congregation for supporting you. Whether that's again a part of a Sunday piece, or if it's maybe you've got special investors that you're going to invite to something, just to get that on the calendar so you're thinking about it, you don't let it slip by. And so you have, if it is going to be a Sunday, you know which weekend that is going to be, to make sure your participants are in town, you're able to connect. It's again a time to maybe do a recap video, or to have opportunities to share of what they experienced in Minneapolis. So just to have that on there, really again a time to celebrate, and for again the time for the congregation to welcome those young people back in and keep them connected and know that they were cared for while they were away. Again, I kind of mentioned this before, the power of prayer is maybe be thinking about those prayer warriors in your congregation who will lift up young people and adults here in these last days of preparation. Maybe you're already doing that. And again, that's not just about the 5 days of the gathering, but that there would be kind of some lifelong, maybe relationships built out of that, of praying for one another as we lift up our needs to God our Father. And so just maybe think about that organizational side, as well as too, even within your own group, that you've been arranging that a little bit. Know that at the gathering, there are a lot of fun photo ops. So we have groups that do a great job of kind of scheduling one. A lot of them are on the convention center floor, but also sometimes maybe at the stadium might be a great event, or at the state fair food event. You're going to see different ones that are going to come up, and maybe thinking through a scheduled time where we're going to say we're all going to get together at a certain time. Maybe it's at the end of a day at the convention center at 5:30. We're going to go to the floor and we're going to go to one of the photo ops to take a group picture, so that can be a part of a thank you gift, maybe to some of our key donors or to our congregation, or to be a part of our presentation that we do when we go back. So again, those photos are so beautiful. It's just such great reminders too for us of the blessing we have as the body of Christ. As you know too, thank you notes, written notes are powerful things, way to show thanks and gratitude for all that we've done. So sometimes there could be some downtime during the gathering, or on the trip maybe, the way there, the way back. And you can have your group filling out thank you notes for your donors and for your congregational support. So make use of that time to be able to let them reflect and also give thanks to the many generous people in your congregation, and so that we're able to thank well for that. And then too, another thing to be thinking about, I know this question's been on the adult leader page a little bit. We're planning on having streams of all 5 of the stadium events. So it's the 4 mass events and also worship on Monday morning. One, have your congregation be watching, to be experiencing what your young people are experiencing, what you're experiencing. And then also too, maybe your church will do kind of a watch party, maybe for your junior high students. That's a night that they could get together and watch one of the mass events together, so that they see what they're going to look forward to in 3 years, and also be able to connect with those high school students. But then also too, to come and have your congregation be together, praying for those young people, and also seeing what their investment is allowing those young people to hear, and also to see with the body of Christ together in Minneapolis. So just kind of some cool ways that you can connect back home. I know so many of you too have amazing social media connections that you do. Don't forget those, to be able to update your congregation back home. Maybe it's been on the rhythm of every morning you're going to share a post from our post, and then also share how your group interacted with that. You guys do amazing work with that, I know. But just be thinking that through maybe a schedule that you're going to have a point time where you're going to share with your church back home. Just a few ideas that we've seen. You show us how it gets done so well, but then some things certainly we want to provide for you as well, to be able to thank your church for their investment.
Yeah, a couple questions to come back to. I know a couple have used different apps and websites to connect back with their congregation too. So I know the band, some people use that as a way for people to share pictures. And so you can have your whole group kind of coming in, and people back home can kind of see what the experience is like internally. So lots of different options there to connect in. Sharon asked a question about those who are driving and your webinar. Just so you know, you're going to get a personal webinar invite. It hasn't happened yet. So we'll get that to you very soon, and it is still to come, so stay tuned. And then another question about parking, and I know the question was to the stadium, but I'm going to address it probably to the whole city in particular. The thing about Minneapolis is the parking is not, it's privately owned. And so we don't have, like, for example, the stadium doesn't have a lot. It's someone else's lot. And so we really don't have a lot of access to parking in the city. And so it is a pay kind of a thing. And so if you are bringing a vehicle down in particular, like if you're thinking that, hey, we might just rent a car and bring it down. I know there's some that we'll communicate differently with, that we've talked with already, and you've talked about driving. And but for most, if you're going to bring a car down, we said the same thing with our volunteers, same thing with our COBs, same thing with our YAVs, same kind of a thing. We just don't have access to parking downtown. So, but there are some really reasonable parking lots and rates down there. I know Meredith has linked some of those on there. every time I go down and park, typically for me, I think about wherever I'm going, usually within about 2 to 3 blocks of that is a very reasonable parking ramp and rate. It's the ones that are kind of right around the stadium that jack up all the prices. But if you go 2 to 3, 4 blocks away, actually you can get some really decent parking for a very small amount of money, just so that you know. And then send off service too, we'll link that in. That's part of our prepare. You go to the website and prepare page that we can give you some resources to kind of help with that too. Will we need to pay extra to have our bus park at the stadium just for Monday service? Great question, Blake. We've been working with the city, and we have got a plan. There's just about 3 different details that we have to finalize with the city. But we are going to have a plan that if you're bringing particularly a charter bus or a school bus that you want to pick up with the stadium and go out, we've got some parking options that you'll have on Monday, and you'll need to make sure that you register with us, and we'll get you a sign that you can put on your bus to give you access into some street-like parking. More information is going to come out. We're hoping to have that by June's webinar. So stay tuned for that. There was some really good news on that. So we're excited about that because we know a lot of people want to load from the stadium and head out. So the city has been great to work with in that. Is it forbidden to save seats for mass events? Oh, forbidden, Emily, is such a strong word. It is, here's what we've done. There's a couple different things. There are, for some, we've given, especially if you're from an outer hotel, you've given some options for some seating options that are reserved, and also from some other groups or larger groups have been given an access to some of that as well. Here's what we typically say. We don't have a policy where you can come in and save like a big bunch of seats for the most part. And part of that is just for fairness of trying to make sure that the people that get in right after you, that they're not way back because you've saved a big block. And we know that just has some anxiety with it. There are some options where people have signed up for some reserved seating. And so what we're asking you to do is to really have if you're not a part of that and you're in general seating, and in downtown, if you're a downtown hotel property, you will be in general seating. We're asking that you come with your group and you sit down in those sections. Typically, if there are 4 or 5 people or so, a small section of your group, you can save that little seat around you to make sure that they're with you. But we're asking that you don't come with 3 or 4 people and save like 4 rows, because that just really annoys people that are behind you. The other thing we're asking is just that people be patient with each other, to give each other the best. We think about the 8th commandment, to think the best of each other. And so just to be kind of gracious with that as well, because we know that some people haven't been treated very well if they do that, and we've heard some reaction on that. But just be gracious with each other. But we're really asking that your group really comes in tandem, unless you're in the reserved seats section. Okay, is there going to be an international night and an opportunity to participate at the NYG? Mark, you want to take that?
Assuming that's talking about our international participants, I know the mass event planning team is still kind of working through those details, but definitely we have a coordinator for our internationals. I know we'll be working out details with them in terms of just some scheduling pieces. And if there is that international night, she'll be making that connection with them. So we're still working through, once we got the final list. Really excited. I have over 100 internationals participating, like 20 nations. So it's really an exciting thing to see the whole body of Christ coming together at the gathering. So we'll be working out those details during the coming days.
Okay, Mark, another question for Jeff asked on, I think this is probably referring, well, actually, will there be a place, Jeff's asking this, will there be a place for chartered buses to drop off at the convention center in the morning? Let's start with that one.
Yeah, so Jeff, especially in the case of those properties that we're asking to drive, or they are driving, which I believe is your case, there will be a place that we will tell you is a designated kind of drop-off zone, and if you need any kind of credentials to get to that location. So we'll have those details for you for both locations for sure. So we'll have that, and that will be part of that webinar that's coming later. So you have those details.
And
I should say, sorry, Darren, I should say in general, if you're not at one of those properties where you've been contacted, you're providing your own transportation, you're thinking of driving yourself, in general, do not anticipate that you would be able to just drive up into the front of the convention center, because we will have that cornered off for our shuttles who are driving our participants from outlying hotels. So it's real easy. I mean, just from being in the city, we can probably maybe provide some general direction, but I mean, again, Minneapolis is used to this kind of stuff. So there are wide streets where it is easy, many places where a charter bus can pull up just to unload and take off. It may not be right in front of the convention center, but within blocks of the convention center, that your charter bus driver will be able to figure that out and be able to find a safe place where you'll be able to pull out on one of the streets that are, again, wide, very safe, and be able to do that, especially when it's not during the high rush hour, which will be probably the time when you'd be getting dropped off. So that's a note for those of you who are thinking maybe, well, we're just going to drive ourselves. Completely fine, but don't necessarily anticipate that you're just going to be able to drive up into the loading zone at the convention center, because again, those will be reserved for the transportation that we're providing for those outlying properties.
And then Jeff had the same question about mass event at night at the stadium. And Jeff, certainly we addressed the Monday issue, so you've got access on Monday for pickup. We're still working with the stadium and the city to develop what that plan looks like on if you're doing that each evening and where that is. But there will be some direction that we give you that will be a part of the June webinar as well. June webinar might be a 9-part series, Mark. we might be there all day, but it'll be good.
Get comfy.
We know we've heard from some people that talked about the concern about like 15-passenger vans and parking garages. I'll say this: we haven't seen a lot of that. So we see big vehicles all the time coming into those different things. You can't do semis or big vehicles like that, but a lot of the parking lots that we've been into, a few of them will have height restrictions, but we haven't seen a whole lot of that. Yeah. And we know by the stadium, even the Fleet Farm lot, you can get 15-passenger vans in and out of that very easily. So we do not have that concern.
I think some of those websites have those details too, if you want to look them up first in terms of any height restrictions on some of those spots. But over by the stadium, there's lots and there's pretty high ceilings there, so it's easy.
A question about special needs and do they have different seats? Really, if what we ask you to work with our special needs team, who is kind of organizing and working with that within the stadium to what works best for that individual and groups. So make sure you work through them. They're communicating with the stadium and they can help you out with the different options there as well. How many floor seats will there be? There's 5,000. We have room for 5,000. So we will literally, this is what we'll do. We'll have a counter, and when we hit 5,000, we'll close that gate off, and that's it for the night. So one of the things we'll tell people is you got to come with your whole group. You can't come with 4 or 5 people, because you'd have some on the floor and then others who won't be on. So we know the floor is not for that people don't necessarily want to be on the floor every night, but if there's a night in particular you want to do that, just kind of think that through your schedule and saying, hey, this night we need to get there a little early so we can make sure to be in that first 5,000. Okay. How do we find out if our assigned hotel will have a chartered shuttle bus? Lisa's asking that, Mark.
Lisa, I don't know if you're a primary adult leader or not, but all PALs would have been invited to the Bloomington webinar and would have got the information sent back. So that's how one way you primarily know. I don't know if you can maybe private message to what hotel you're at, we'd be able to answer that question as well, most likely. But that's one key way you would know, is that we had a webinar for that group and they would have been invited, plus would have got the resources afterwards. And we'll continue to communicate with that group too, with information. Specifically, I think someone was asking, Richard, you asked if June webinars we'll have scheduled for shuttles from outlying hotel properties. We probably won't go into that level of detail because that webinar is more for everybody, but you will get, again, to the primary dot leader, more details about the specific time. We're probably going to communicate that more via just a written thing so you have that in writing and can utilize that. But you'll get the details about how your transportation will work from your hotel. And so, like we said in the webinar, probably still sending out a survey to get your feedback about what you're looking to do, especially on Thursday with registration and Monday on your way out of town, so we can best serve you and utilize our resources there.
Excellent. And a question on the Mass Event Plus seating. A great question. So here's how we do that. Typically, if you are, like, for example, we know there are groups at Mass Event Plus that want to move closer if they can. Typically what we say, we have groups that get up and they head out, they don't want to be a part of it, or part of the group stays and part of the group goes. And so if there are seats that are open that you want to move down, get a better seat, stuff like that, you're free, more than free to get up and to do that. One of the things, and once again, we'll talk about this in June webinar, one of the things about US Bank Stadium that's a little different, beautiful stadium, you're going to absolutely love it. But one of the complications in it is the way they do seating is very different. And there are a lot of, it's not like a free building where you can access everything from like a plaza level. There are different distinct clubs and there's different distinct seating patterns that we have to be very creative and making sure that we have groups of people in those. And so so it's, just so you know, it's a little bit of a complication. We'll talk about that in June of where that is. That's part of the reason why we've given some reserved seating options, particularly those that are on the outlying hotels and are shuttling, because we know that takes extra time, and so we've given them an extra advantage to that seating as part of that. So there'll be more on that on June, and then I think that was, can anyone remain? Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit with shuttling already. Mass Event Plus is another optional event. If you want to stay or not stay, it's completely up to you. We know some people want to get on the first shuttles and get back to their hotel and get more rest. Some people break their group up and some go back, some stay. We do know that depending on how many people stay will depend on how quickly we can get you home afterwards. So we're going to do some things on the kind of the screens at the stadium. So if, for example, if there's no waiting at a shuttle, we're going to tell which line is open, so that if you say, hey, we want 20 minutes to this, but there's no waiting, we want to get right on, we'll communicate with that. We'll communicate that in some way so that you can make the best decision possible. All right. So here's what I want to do. I want to, we have about five minutes left, maybe even a little less. And so I want to talk about this one last option, and then we'll try to hit any last second questions if there are any of those. So the two things we really wanted to connect with is we're doing one thing that's brand new this year. That's adult featured session, and that we're asking for one adult to be at with every congregation. So one of your adults to be at this. And so we are really anticipating this to be an amazing opportunity. And so we actually are releasing some new things from the youth ministry office that are going to be great. What does it look like to have healthy youth ministry? And we have a team of 11 that are 11 throughout the 3 days that will be doing 11 TED-like talks, facilitated by the wonderful Jeffrey Mines, who will be taking us through that. And it's really going to be a valuable thing of how do we have great youth ministry back in our congregation, because that's really where our focus is on. We know the best youth ministry happens in congregations. So we're going to focus in on that. There's going to be some great content and great presenters. We want to make sure that you have that. Mark, anything that you want to add to that?
No, just in general, again, a couple things about the gathering. The gathering is also the largest event of bringing together adults in our synod. And we know you all play a vital role in the lives of young people. We're so thankful for your investment, not just about the gathering, but about all things that you do in your congregation. And so we want to do our best to encourage you, to equip you, to network you with one another, so that you know that you are supported and cared for, not only by our office, but so many institutions in our church body, as well as each other. We just love the Gathering Bell Leader Facebook group, and man, I can't wait to have that kind of conversation face to face in Minneapolis. So we're really looking forward to that. So really encourage at least one adult per congregation to come to these events. It doesn't have to be the same one all 3 days. It can be someone different to get a little bit of a taste of that, but to be able to come. And to hear again, like Derek said, we're on rolling out with some new kind of initiatives and also kind of some vision for youth ministry within the synod around the 7 practices of healthy youth ministry. It's coming out of some of the research maybe you've heard that we've done, as well as some other things as we look to how do we invest in our young people into the Generation Z, and still equip their parents too as they continue to teach the faith at home. There'll be some resourcing that will come out through that as well, not only in the sessions, but in other places too, and just ways that we want to equip you and connect you there. So again, every day in one of the larger rooms, 101 at the convention center at 2 o'clock, just kind of put that on your calendar, have one of the adults on your group do that. It'll be there for everyone. Again, we are so thankful for pastors and DCEs and teachers and deaconesses and all those of you that are in called church positions, those of you that are on staff, but then also so many of our amazing volunteers that are giving up your time and vacation time to be in Minneapolis, investing in those young people. We just want to encourage you in that work, not just over those 5 days, but what goes beyond there as well. So thank you for that. We hope that will be a great, enjoyable time for you to be refreshed and encouraged in the work that you do.
And then the one last thing we want to mention, and we're really excited about this too, because we talked about how do we take, we got all these great session speakers, and we've got all this great content that's kind of been building for 2.5 years now. And how do we take this and to resource youth ministry back home? And so we set to a pretty ambitious project that said, hey, we want to produce at least 1 year of resources for congregations back home. And not only did we get to there, but on August 1st, we are going to release 79 possible sessions. It's almost 1.5 years of resources that are going to be dealing with social media, worldview, dealing with fear, racial reconciliation, decision-making, vocation, handling transitions, sex, dating, psalms, life issues, mental health crisis, dealing with stress, Lutheran identity, family relationships, and sexual identity. Typically there are 3 to 6 week sessions, and so there's all kinds of blocks that you can take, and you could do as many or as few as you want. But they're all going to be released on August 1st. Absolutely free resource, whether you come to the gathering or not. And one of the things that we're really excited about is it's going to have a language of the gathering. It's going to have a lot of use of the Psalms of the gathering. So how do we take Psalms and go deeper into that? And just a free resource that you can use on Sundays or Wednesday nights or whenever you want to use it. And we're really, really, really excited about that. So I want to make sure that you're aware of that. We are ending into to a moment of prayer. And so we want to do that for you, because that is really, we just met with 75 planners last week in Minneapolis, kind of putting a lot of the last second details on a lot of stuff. And one of the things that we did is we stopped and all 75 at the same time spent time praying for you. And so we want to continue to do that, because we know you have an immense, stressful, but beautiful opportunity in the roles that you have. So let's do that. We'll pray. And there's also some other moments that will be online down in the next 60 days where we'll just be online to answer questions for people as well. So we'll tell you more about that. But let's pray. Mark, can you end us in prayer?
Yeah. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for your gift of technology. And Lord, I just thank you for each one of these people who attended this webinar, for these adult leaders who are just doing an amazing work with their young people and in their congregations. Lord, I pray you bless their final preparations to give them the energy and the clarity and the joy and the fun in putting these details together, but also that they're reminded that it's all about the relationships in Jesus' name, that we're loving on each other, that we are investing in our young people, we're encouraging them in their walk with you, that they may see their life with you as a lifetime relationship, that they see the blessing of the gift of eternal life and how we have life abundantly here on earth. continue to bring us into unity and to know each other and to just care for one another in a way that your body does. Lord, pray for so many things on our hearts and minds, end of school years, seniors leaving into transition, that they may stay close to you through that walk. The city of Minneapolis, all our opportunities to serve there as they serve us, but we also are able to say thank you and to share the gospel in so many ways. Lord, that you just guard our hearts and our minds and our attitudes with just so many details to work through, that we see the bigger picture of how you are working in our young people and through our young people to bring hope to so many and to be encouraged in our walk with you, our real present God. Lord, be with us in these coming days. Again, help us to serve one another, to be encouraging of one another, and to be blessed by your presence in our life and to know you as our loving Heavenly Father. We pray this in your Son's holy name, Jesus Christ. Amen.